got Gene
Sure.
Jochen on the show today, a decorated author. He's going to talk about his book, One Step Forward, 100 Life Lessons from 100 Marathons. My God. And it's reached so many people and probably changed a ton of lives. I mean, I was a cross country runner when I was in high school, but I have never done I think the most I've ever done, Gene, is a 10K.
Oh, that's great though, and I was not identified as a runner when I was in high school. I did play lacrosse, field lacrosse, so I ran a lot, but I was mostly running away from the defensive players who were trying to kill me. So,
That's right.
so I think that's maybe where I got my legs, my running from. But I wish I had. I didn't have the honestly like the support network. I didn't find the coaching, the counselors in high school gave me any good encouragement or anything. I was just sort of felt like I was just an average guy just floating through life through school.
One of my
But
best friends always said that I only run when chased.
mm, right, yeah, no, I won't admit to any of that, but it might have been once or twice when we were in my ill spent youth.
Awesome, sir. So we kind of met on the Business Network International meeting that I attended,
Yeah.
and that's going on. It was Sam Russell, who I'm going to interview next month,
Oh,
who
fantastic.
introduced me to you guys, and I'm really happy that I got at least one cool contact out of it right away. So, and that was you. So
Thank you.
yeah, let's take a deep dive into your book.
Oh,
One
thank you.
step forward. What do you
Yes.
have to say about this beast, which I call a book?
Yeah,
Writing a book is not an easy adventure.
well, you're right. Actually, that is another marathon in itself. And then, once you actually, I thought writing the book was hard, and then once you finish the book, then you have to figure out how to get it published, and then you have to market the book. So it is one step forward, and every page was one step forward, and the book is, it's the analogy to my running. And that was sort of one of my mantras when I would run. There's a lot of pain, a lot of things going through your mind when you're running anything. Even if you're running 100 meters or you're running 5K or a marathon, it's just one step forward. And and just like life, if you keep moving, you eventually going to get there. Just one step at a time. Don't eat an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Not
Absolutely.
not all at once. And that's how life is.
Nice. So one step forward, like it's obvious that it's changed your life writing about it, as well as the fact that you've done 100 marathons, which is incredible. It's like an Everest, really. Um, at what point did you like think that this is more about your mind than your legs?
I always joke. Somebody just asked me yesterday. I've done Ironman races as well, and a younger guy asked me, is it, how much of it is mental? And I would joke it's 90% mental and 90% physical.
That's
You
right.
do
So
have
you've
to
got
do
it.
the physical work, but there's so much mental going on in your head. At any distance, and you've got we all have self-talk, self-doubt, and you've got to beat that down, and you just got to keep moving forward one step at a time. The subtitle of the book is Becoming Who You're Meant to Be. And I used to say, when I was working in corporate for many years, and that was what I did. I worked. That's what I did. But who I was a runner. And I probably bored the heck out of many people, because if you ever started talking to me about running, I'm completely OCD about it, or I was more obsessed then. But but it was my identity, as being a runner. I also am a musician, so I'll add that as an identity. But work is just work. That's I never identified with my job, and I've seen a lot of people do that and retire, or they get laid off, and they go through a really dark period, because they put everything into that, and didn't have any other identity of themselves. So that I think that was one of the things, and that's why I say becoming who you're meant to be, but it became who I was meant to be. If that makes sense.
Thanks. Well, brings me to my next question: is how, like there's so much mental training you need to do to be a runner, to focus on your career. to focus on your pastimes, to be able to budget your time. The one thing I wanted to ask though, how does the brain relate to the brain body connection, and is the brain as trainable as the body?
Yeah, 100%, you are, what you think, right? I still do a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts like yours. I listen, constantly. I don't spend any time hardly watching a movie or watching, drama. I'm into reality. I want to learn as much as I can from everybody, take a little bit from everybody. And so, yeah, the brain is 100% trainable. There's one of the podcasters that I listened to for a while, Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, that
Um,
name, it rings a bell.
yeah, he was a triathlete, and he got hit by a car, and they told him he'd never walk again. And through the power of his brain, he actually was able to help heal himself. And now he walks. I'm not sure what he does athletically, but he survived, a near death experience, and using, so that was sort of an inspiration. If somebody can come back from that, and with the power of the brain, there's something going on in the brain, right? That and if you have, I used to call it stinking thinking. If you're
It's very
constantly,
much an Alcoholics Anonymous term.
is it okay? Yeah, I haven't been, but I was
Good for
maybe
you.
nearly going a few times in my life.
I know the program inside out, sir,
There you go. Yeah, I
from
know
when I
people
was a
in it.
little kid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great
Um,
pro. So there you go. Yeah, so stinking thinking, right? And if you think it, and if you give yourself positive, I always think about the devil and the angel on your shoulders, right? And
yes, your
you're making
conscience.
decisions. Yes, yes, exactly.
And when conscience calls, exactly.
Right.
Stinking thinking. I think I galloped into stinking thinking for a couple of years, but
Yes.
I've kind of got everything in a chokehold now. All this
Good.
negativity and stuff, negativity and things. And I
And
also,
it's
you bring up.
yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's normal, right? Where, everybody is in their own heads and doing this to ourselves. So, and you think, oh, is it just me? But no, so many people, have,
Absolutely. Yeah, you
right?
think it's just
Conscious.
you when things are going wrong, but there's a lot of people in your boat that you don't notice. I struggle with noise. You bring noise up.
Okay.
What does your noise sound like? How do you confront the noise? Like is running the biggest escape to the noise?
You know, I know this is about running, but the analogies is life itself. So, I stay away from the news as much as possible. I'll grab
Absolutely.
headlines, I'll read, I'll pick from different sides, and somewhere in the middle is the truth, and a lot of it's not. I don't focus on things that World War III may happen now. I stay away from anything that might may or may not, that can make me mentally nuts from
Absolutely.
worry. you know
I think it's
um
designed to drive us crazy, but we have to
exactly.
figure out
Yes.
our own coping
Yes.
mechanisms, really.
Yeah, so the noise, one of the things, is I have music playing on all day, and I listen to like smooth jazz, or I listen to instrumental, or I listen to like spa. I'll just have quiet, calm music
Nice.
all day in the house. Every room I walk into, I have one of those Alexa devices, and
Absolutely.
so that's the first thing, and then I tell other people that are obsessed by watching news 24 hours a day, and the world is going to end tomorrow. Shut the TV off, go for a walk, listen to music, and
Grab
then
a hit of nature.
yes, grab a hit of nature, exactly. Go into the woods, and then so I started the running, really was, it was for my health, my physical health, but then the talk about the endorphins, you don't get that on every run, that runner's high, but you do get a high,
I
and
remember there was a
yes,
poem that came out a long time ago called "Runner's High."
okay,
I saw a plaque in one of my friends. His father was a big runner, and the runner's
yes.
high is that endorphin rush you get at the end when you're exhausted, but your brain feels completely free.
I've experienced it many times, and I could run when I was running. I was running very fast, for my age, and I could literally at times almost feel like I was not even touching. I was like floating, not even touching the ground. It was a real almost out of body experiences. I experienced this one time. I ran a 100 miler, ultra marathon. It was 24 hours through the night. I had a few hallucinations,
Are you
but it
serious?
was,
I've never heard of
seriously.
that.
Yeah. So there's ultra marathons are beyond the marathon distance. So there's there's a lot of that going on. A lot of crazy people running ultra long distances.
Ultra
You just
marathons.
yeah, beyond the marathon distance. So but you get, so and even at a 5K, if I think if where you will experience if you ran all out, there's a threshold where you go beyond that, where you get that runner's high, and I used to kind of half joke with an ex of mine, and she used to say, whenever we traveled, she'd say, "Oh, do we have to go? Do you have to join a run?" I'd always Google, "Oh, is there a 5K or is there a 10K run or a 1 mile, anything?" While if I'm going away on a vacation, and I said, "Look, I said it could be a lot worse. I could be in the Beers of the World Club, and I want to go on a pub crawl on every trip. This is, my identity, and this, and if I'm going
Ah,
to channel my addictions and my OCD into something." I'm going to do it for my health and my mind and body, and that was something I think she understood it, but sometimes didn't.
absolutely. You're gonna get me back into running, Gene.
Oh,
Um,
I hope
so
so.
yeah, I walk every day, but I don't
Great.
run. So yeah, and when you are running, there's a few complications sometimes where you hit a wall. Can you describe hitting the wall or the
Yeah.
psychology of both the runner's high and hitting the wall at the same time?
Sure. So, in marathons, it's easy to to say it in marathon, but I've seen it in a 5K run where somebody, they're running all out for 4K and then they're walking the last kilometer, and that's hitting a wall, like so you have to pace yourself. So in any distance. So in the marathon is really where that analogy came from. And there's a transparent wall at around 32. It's a 42.2 kilometer run. I'll keep it in kilometer terms. So
Yes, well,
26.2 miles.
we
So
are
at
we are in
about
the metric
30,
system.
yes, exactly. So at about 32 kilometers to 34 in there, it just seems to be the magic spot. You're feeling good or okay, and then you're thinking, I got this, I'm gonna finish, and then all of a sudden it's almost, and I've experienced it several times where I'm running and all of a sudden I'm walking. And I remember I was in a trail run one time and I was running and all of a sudden I'm walking and I said to myself, I said, "Oh, okay, I guess we're walking now." you know and
I
literally
think
the
it was
body, yeah.
there's another theory that goes along with that. Like when you're running and your quads and your calves get tired, sometimes people run backwards because
Oh
it
yeah, I have a
involves
friend that
it
trains
involves different
backwards.
muscles. It gets different
Yeah,
muscles, so you can
there
run a
are
couple of K
absolutely, yeah.
backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, if you do the training, and the training is rigorous to get to, the point where you're able to, run a marathon well and finish. You could walk a marathon in 6 hours, walk, jog it. That's a long time, right? But your body, anybody can do it. Almost anybody, seriously. It's not to eventually you'll get there one step forward, right? You might have to sit down on a bench for an hour, you might take you
Bring
eight
your
hours,
book
12
with you.
hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
take a book with you, right? But when you're in the throes of, let's say you have a time goal of 4 hours and you hit that 32, 34 kilometer marker, and all of a sudden it's just like, I can't do this. Like my body's aching everywhere, the quads,
Absolutely. Cramping up.
yeah, you're cramping up, and there's all kinds of things that go into it. But that's where the mantra, like that's where a mantra comes in. Mine was, one step forward, just move one step at a time, one step forward, which, but or you can do this, you got this. Remember the little engine that could, when we were children, I think I
Good
can,
one.
I think I can,
Yes,
if you
absolutely.
think if you think you can't, right?
That's when you get up that hill. You got to be the little engine. So
That's right.
let's get into a couple other theories. Is how do you stay disciplined? How do you keep inspired? And how do you keep motivated to do what you do, Gene?
Thank you. And it ebbs and flows. I went through, COVID was a tough period for everybody, and when anything you did. So I'd say it was a tough period to get motivated. I was in the Boston Marathon the year
You
they
did the
had the
Boston?
the bomb.
Oh, that's
I've done the Boston. I was there when they had the bombing.
wow.
I had finished the race. I beat the bomb by 20 minutes.
Well, that's
I was
good.
around, I was a block away at my hotel. I heard the blast.
Wow.
It was a bad day, and that was, that was a very demotivating period I went through after that. I just, I'm like, wow, like that was really, really tough. Like anything in life, you have setbacks and, so with how do you continue to, how do you, as it became a lifestyle for me, let's just say as well. How do I stay motivated? It is part of my lifestyle. I woke up today, I'm like, okay, I've got to, meet with Brandon. Then what time am I going to get my running today? Or do I
Right.
go to the gym or, and, I kind of, when I was thinking about today, one of the things is, even, just some, I know we all struggle, some days you don't want to get out of bed, how do you, how am I going to go for a walk? I can't go for a walk, like leave the shoes by the door. Just, just say, I'm just going to go around the block or I'm just going to walk one telephone pole. And then it becomes two, and then,
Right.
once you start, right, once you leave the house, yeah, it's cold and it's miserable, and then all of a sudden, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. And then you go, when you finish, you feel like you're $1 million, and you overcame that challenge too, your own personal challenges for
In
the
the
day.
everyday. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
What do you believe the difference between pushing yourself versus
Hmm.
breaking yourself? What would you consider the differences between that?
Excellent. So I tell people, I've coached others as well, and I was let's see, a couple of times I've worked with people that are doing Ironman, which is like long distance
Yeah,
triathlons, and
yeah,
you know
that's a big one. The
that's a
Hawaiian
big one.
Ironman.
Yeah, but in anything, even in a shorter distance, I always say, if you're hurt, keep going. Everybody's hurting. If you are in a marathon or a half marathon, you look around, everybody. You never see a runner smile. Have you ever seen a runner smiling, Brandon? No, they smile after when they
Well,
celebrate.
some those Nigerians and Ethiopians
Yeah.
that always win marathons, they've got a pretty they don't have very serious faces.
Well, they make it look easy, but it is that's their identity. That's what they've done as, little children, and they're in high
Yeah,
altitude. That's a whole different.
absolutely.
They've got genetics that, when you watch them, it's like watching horses run. It's
It's they're
off the
thoroughbreds.
charts.
Yeah.
They're thoroughbred. They're amazing to watch, and they are beautiful people. But the average person, is hurting out there. And I say, if you're hurt, you keep going. If you're injured, you stop. So, you twist an ankle, you know what? Stop.
It's a
Don't
great
try to run through it.
That's a good
You
one. If
know,
you're hurt, keep going. If you're injured, you stop.
that's right. You don't want to be injured, where you're not going to be able to run. You need to take 6 months off now. What's that going to feel like? You know what? I've started my run. I've started a training run or just a little run. I'd run out the door and run. I ran to the corner and my knee, and I'm like, I'm done. Shut my watch off. Go home. I don't want to be injured. Because I want to be able to go out the next day. So if I have a bad run or a bad experience, I dust myself off. I can get out the next day.
On my walks, I often get like lactic acid in my calves, and it's kind of debilitating. So as soon as I feel that coming, I'm like,
Yes.
oh, can I make it home without taking a break? And then
Yeah.
I
So
do.
what
I
you,
just
yeah.
turn back.
So that's electrolytes mostly. So you need to take more. Have you ever, if you go into a sports store, they sell electrolytes. Have you
Yeah,
seen them?
like
Yeah,
well,
that's what you need. Yeah,
Gatorade's got some of
Gatorade.
that
Well,
in it.
Gatorade's more sugary. It's really not. It's
Now, I'm gonna
honestly,
write
it's
that
not.
down.
Yeah,
Electrolytes.
it's
That's
not
awesome.
it's not the. It's good, but it's not always great. I think they're owned by Coke or Pepsi, one of them. Not that I'm not endorsing it,
Who
but
owns Gatorade?
yes.
I think it's Coke. Yeah,
I think
Coke
it's
owns
one of,
Gatorade.
so there's a lot of sugar in it also. But if you go to, a local, like the running room stores in town, they sell, there'll be little capsules of electrolytes, just sodium, potassium, three or four, I forget the other, but
Well,
which are essential.
you've just cured me of my calf pain.
100%. I was biking
Nice.
last summer with a woman. It was hot. It was 30 Celsius. We were soaked in sweat. and we stopped for a break, and I said, what are you drinking? And we have water bottles on our bike. What are you drinking? She's just water. I'm like, well, don't you have electrolyte? No. And I said, well, here, take these, and I'm pushing my electrolytes on her. And then I said, take two of these. And then I said, go get yourself a Gatorade or, one of those Powerades now, and then it completely revived her. I've done volunteer work on races. I've been an Ironman and late in a marathon in the marathon section where people are literally, we call it bonking. If you ever heard of that term, not
Okay.
only it's called bonking, where your head, you're just literally like having an out of body experience, and you're almost at the verge of passing out. And it's a depletion of and nutrition, whether it's nutrition or electrolyte. So if you're feeling the calf, you know, try that. Take one or two before you even leave the house, and have
We'll do that.
yeah,
I'm definitely going to do that. Absolutely.
excellent, good.
Um, okay, so like we're still gonna we're gonna beat this running horse more. Um, how did running build you into who you are, or did running simply reveal you about who you are?
And that's a wow. Okay, so so I think I shared earlier. I was not identified as a runner. I was typical boy. I biked. I played some sports, some okay, some not really good. And then so I had well, maybe I can take it back to that that rock bottom where a lot of people that are struggling with addictions hit the rock bottom, and that's what kind of turns themselves around. If you don't mind, I'll share a quick story. I had a lost Vegas weekend many years ago. I was in my mid 30s. My father was an alcoholic, but my dad used to say, "I'm not an alcoholic. I only drink beer," but he drank beer every day, And
Yeah.
so I took him to Las Vegas. He had a brother living there and a cousin, and we went for a weekend of drinking and gambling. And I couldn't keep up. I didn't want to keep up. I did my best, and after that weekend, I really examined myself, and I examined my family history, of alcoholism, of other abuses everywhere, both sides of my family. And so what I did was, I was not a runner. I was not running. I was 200 over 200 pounds. I'm 5'8". I was in the food business. I loved to eat my samples, and I also had quite an appetite for a thirst for beer. And I stopped in the bookstore in the library. Sorry, in the airport. And there was running room. It was Runner's World magazine. There's this. I was looking at the cars, the cars and truck magazines, and here's this Runner's World magazine with this like fit guy on it, and it was like a
Reveal right
model,
there.
you
That's like
know.
a plot. That's like a plot twist, Gene.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and I was embarrassed, and I'm like, I grabbed it and I kind of scanned. I'm like, okay, I tucked it under my arm, and then there was the other one was Men's Health magazine, Men's Health, right, where they have these guys and they're weightlifting on the covers, and I'm like,
How
same
to get
thing,
abs in 6 days.
Yeah, abs in 6 days. So I grabbed a copy of that, and then there was a book, Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And I thought, well, you know what? I got to change my eating habits too. And I grabbed that, and I think I read all of it all the way home on the airplane, and that was it. I'm like, you know what? I always remember the Led Zeppelin song, "Stairway to Heaven." Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but choose the path, the one you're on, and doors open. And do I want to go down that path, or do I want to go down reinvent myself and go down a new
Absolutely.
path? And that was it. And I literally went and bought a Rocky, one of the hoodies from Zellers, the Rocky
That's
sweatsuit
awesome.
with the hoodie and the
Yeah.
sweatpants. And I laced up, my Keds, and I stepped out the door, and I ran one telephone pole and nearly passed out.
You had an epiphany in Vegas, which turned you into Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, and I mean, short of, I probably needed AA at the time. I didn't, I thought I can tackle this on my own. It's still a demon, but I don't, but I channeled my addiction personality, and it's just, there's genetics for sure. I don't know, I've got it,
I would
you
say that
know.
you made a trade-off. I mean, you chose your body over addiction.
That's right. Do you remember there was a show, Let's Make a Deal, and they had door number one, door number two, door number three, and
Monty
I liked
Hall.
it. Monty Hall. And life is like that, isn't it? The door's open. We met, meeting you, and it was a door, a little, I thought, you know what? Let me check out your pod. I would love to be on your podcast, and I, and so that's another door, and you never know where our relation could go. And you never know, you meet somebody randomly and it just opens a new door to a so I enjoy that. That part of it. And again, we all, I have family members, friends made bad choices, really, bad choices in life. And sometimes we think we're making the right choice, and you meet people. And that was another thing I'll add real briefly, is choose your friends wisely. I started, when I started my running journey, I met one of a Canadian Olympic athlete who's a friend of mine. I have friends that their daughter is a Canadian Olympic champion. I hang out with people that are, like, I was not an athlete. I'm not yet I have friends that are real athletes. I
It's
could have
amazing.
had friends.
I was just
What's
gonna
that?
make an amazing compare. I'm trying to get Donovan Bailey on the show.
Yes. Great. I met him once.
I've
Fantastic.
contacted him already, and I haven't heard back. But yeah, I was like, I think I'm gonna go for like Olympians and stuff. Like Clara
Ben
Hughes is
Johnson.
another
I
one.
met Ben Johnson
Ah, he would be
in
incredible to get on the show,
yeah,
actually.
we met him. We were in the Holiday Inn. Remember the Holiday Inn at the mall there, the mall in Scarborough, or by the Keel. What's the Eaton Center? Not Eaton Center, the one on the 401. Anyway, Ben Johnson. We're sitting in a hotel lobby. Here's Ben Johnson.
Borough Town Center.
Well, yeah. Now he made a bad decision. He was the one that took
Now we
the.
laugh at it, really. Like he was the scapegoat for the whole thing, and
You know
everybody
what?
was doing it back then.
He was the scapegoat. It was funny. One of the guys had one of the guys that was with sales managers turns to Ben. So Ben, do you have any regrets? He says, I have no regrets. I ran the distance and I ran the time. I have no regrets. So I was like, okay. He owned it, right?
I think Ben would have a pretty wicked story to tell, actually. Yeah, that would be awesome. Get another runner
Yes.
on. You're my first runner, so
Oh, thank
yeah.
you. Well,
Let's
I'm
let's
honored.
do it. Let's switch gears a little bit. Do you have any advice for being overwhelmed to someone who is out of coping skills?
Good. So again, I think it's just that eating the elephant one bite at a time, one step forward. Just
I love these sayings and these mantras. I use them all the time myself too.
yes,
Yeah.
right. And it's constant. And even there's times I have a dog. I don't want to go for a walk. The dog's not gonna. The dog, looks at me, and I'm like, "All right, we're going for a walk." And forces me out. Right. Another thing that works is getting accountability partners, or people. When we were training for the Boston Marathon, we had 8 or 10 people training, and we were running long runs on Sunday mornings at 7:30, 8 in the morning. And if you didn't show up, you got, you were shamed.
That's right.
So that
Well, it's nice
required
to
that's
have
inspiring.
peers that kick your ass if you don't show up.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So how do you mentally when this is like we can put running aside. This is a
Yes, please.
day to day question. It's how do you mentally warm up for a when you know you're gonna have a busy, tough day? How do you warm up with that? Like getting out of bed and staring at yourself in the mirror, taking your electrolytes, taking your supplements, taking whatever pharmaceuticals your doctor wants you on.
Right.
How do you warm up mentally?
I think having a goal, just a goal for the day. Then even I worked in corporate.
Having a
We would have
goal.
sales goal. We would have sales goals for the week, right? And I'm working on my second book, which is the marathon mindset for leaders and entrepreneurs, because
Down.
work is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? And so is life. We have a lifespan, right? And that's a marathon, too, right? We don't know, we don't have the end goal, but what you can do just in one day, or just having a micro goal for the day, even
Micro
if you're
goal. Yes,
struggling, if
little.
it's a bad day,
Yeah.
and there's
Have a
no,
shower, brush your teeth, make your bed,
yes, yes, right, make your bed, the little, and like I said, get outside, get some fresh air, nature, put the music on,
hug a
sit
tree.
down and forgive yourself. You got to forgive yourself. It's the struggle is real. I've met many people that, have, struggles day to day, and I'm, extremely, compassionate. I've done a lot of volunteer work in different, you know, different fields. And, um, I worked in hospice. Man, the hardest thing I ever did was, with people that their a family member is, in hospice care, so, and everybody has that self-doubt. You're not alone, right? And there's help. There's lots of help out there as well. And, as well.
Love that we related your peers that kicked your butt to get running, and they're having friends or associates that will get you out of bed and tell you that your day is not going to be as tough as you thought it was.
Exactly. Hey, here's another one that worked. Sorry, I'll just share this. Dale Carnegie. He has a couple of books, but his one book that I read 3 or 4 times, cover to cover. Stop worrying and start living. I like to joke. I come from a long line of worriers. And that's one of the other things that running. It does release positive endorphins. It does release other hormones that keep you more balanced. And I've got another story there in a minute. But Dale Carnegie used to say, most of what we worry about never happens. Think about the worst thing that could possibly happen, right? You lose your job. The worst thing, oh my God, I'm going to be poor. I'm going to be, doesn't happen. So you've got to, tell yourself, train your brain, right? To think through that, work through that, because the worst won't happen. And then you go, okay, you figure, okay, that's not going to happen. World War III is not going to happen tomorrow. Okay, I got this. That's the worst thing that might happen, but it's not. So now I can handle anything else they throw at me. The other thought that popped in, I do have a friend. I'm going to keep nameless, but and I know a woman, and she struggles with mental health, and she has probably bipolarism. I know she takes meds and stabilizes herself, but I can tell you, when she'll go through periods where she runs again. She joins us for running. She's off her meds. She's having the best, let's say, a 6 month block. She's in her best place ever. Then she stops running, and then she gets down again. Then she's back, on the meds. And so there's definitely, and I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't know what the science, but there's definitely a correlation, or our physical health, brain health, and our mental health. It's in there, and I've seen
Well,
it
yeah,
firsthand.
there's so many systems that we have to like quote unquote regulate on a day-to-day
Yes,
basis, and
yes.
sometimes it's medication that does it, sometimes it's exercise, sometimes it's just
Pregnant
simple
women.
pump.
Yeah, I've seen women run, the running room groups I've run with, 8 months pregnant, they're still running. 2 weeks after the baby, they're out running again, or, very soon for postpartum for women. It 100% is help would help them as well. So there, you'll see a lot of that as well.
Wicked. So okay, how would you guide? This is I like this question. It's a big one. How would you guide someone whose legs are gone, whose mind is
Mhm.
fading, to take just one more step?
Okay, so a couple of things, I mean, obviously, people, if it's physical, knee pain, biking. I know a lot of people that have, hockey, a lot of friends of mine that played hockey, Canadians, many are, their knees are shot, but they ride really well, on a bike. So, male or female. So even just an exercise bike, or just doing the walk, you got to move. You got to move, is the first part of it. And just any kind of movement that
Have
you
one
can.
slice of one little hors d'oeuvre of elephant.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Did that answer that completely, or it was another part maybe?
We can, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I just like, yeah, let's have an amuse bouche of elephant today
Yeah.
instead of the whole roast.
They had the running room, COVID hurt their programs. They had some really great running programs that I started taking them, and then I also became a coach instructor for them. They had to learn
Nice.
to run. They had to learn to run. They still have the program. I don't know that it. Yes, they still do learn to run. And somebody said, "I'm going to join the learn to run." And I'm like, learn to run. Don't you know how to run? Didn't you run as a kid? Well, I didn't really run as a kid. And I'm like, well, okay. I know people that didn't never rode a bike as a kid. They couldn't afford a bike, where they had,
Well, yeah,
lived in, you
Gene,
know,
there are things about running that you need to learn, and that's like how your body functions when you're doing how
bingo.
your breath work, all that stuff as
Bingo.
well.
I know
Yeah,
that's what I thought. I thought I ran as a kid. I was, running away from, running away from, being chased, by the lion or the police,
yeah.
but they have, so they literally teach you the fundamentals. They teach you how to breathe. You breathe through your nose, you breathe through your mouth. Like, it sort of came natural to me. And I know somebody, she struggled. I can't breathe. They run, and they're hyperventilating. Like, well, I'm breathing through my mouth and not my nose. And I'm like, well, and so they teach you that. They also teach you, they do something called a 1 and 1, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk,
Okay.
2 minute run, 1 minute walk, 3 minute run, 1 minute walk. And then you work up to 5 and 1s, 10 and 1s. And they have a 10 and 1 program that
That's
they
a
use
beautiful
to
regimen.
finish a marathon. They have a 10, and I was a pace bunny in the Quebec City Marathon for the running room. And I paced a group of running room runners, and would run 10 minutes and we would walk. And I had my stopwatch. 10 minutes, I didn't blow a whistle. Sometimes you hear whistles and everybody stops and they walk for a minute, refresh, 10 minutes. So it's not about running, full on like a Kenyan, for in 2 hours. It's
One of the only names I remember is Ibrahim Hussein.
who's, yes, yes,
That guy
famous.
was winning every marathon back in the
Yeah, he
day.
had the world record at one point. Yeah, it's been shattered a few times, but
Wow.
yes, that's right. Yes.
And I'm still, but this isn't running, but I'm still a Lance Armstrong fan as well for
Me too.
as
Me
far as
too. Yeah.
endurance goes.
I
Yeah.
met him. I actually ran beside him in the New York City Marathon and in the
Okay.
Boston Marathon. He was running at the time. He was trying to he was a runner first, actually, before he became a triathlete. And and actually, when I was he was right beside me in one of the races, and the crowds were going crazy. But that was before he confessed, and now he doesn't quite
I
get
mean,
the,
I have a big
yeah,
theory on Lance is like the man survived the most ruthless form of cancer. The steroids basically saved his life.
yes,
Then he went on to win seven in a row.
yeah,
And because of that, I mean, it was like, Silken Lauman's another one. Like
yeah,
because she did cough syrup, and they caught
yes.
she had that in her system, so they took her medal
You're
away.
doing they're doing everything. The cyclists today are probably, many of them are they're doing something at the cutting
Yeah, it's
edge
something that's
to,
undetectable
give
now.
give themselves an advantage. But then I'll go back to Ben Johnson. My body, I have no regrets. I finished, he admitted it, and I finished the race. Look at ball players that take
And
they
that
take
Ben
enhanced
Johnson 100
steroids.
meter was so fun to watch too. When he put his
Right.
hand up and pointed it right,
Yes. Yeah,
he
he
knew
did
he
it.
had it.
Right.
And
I mean,
what was the other? Yeah, there was a few. Was Carl Lewis in that race too? I think he
I
was.
think Carl Lewis was around that time. You're right. Yeah, Silk and London was another one, right? They were all doing what they had to do, but their bodies did do it. And I'm not condoning it at all. I've never touched that, any of that, but
Well, I had friends that
at
were
that level,
muscleheads that broke into
yes,
a barn to steal horse steroids.
yeah,
So like
right,
that, like that was when they were in high school. So I was like, that's a bit far gone. I'm not going to touch that. But
right. But I
yeah,
mean, they're doing it for, maybe a lot of it's for the right reasons, although I think it does do, it does
I think the
affect
Lance
their
Armstrong
minds.
case is for the right reasons. But
Yes.
that suffice to say. What is it? We're going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to go get you. We're both going to have our Easter, get prepared for our Easter dinners, unless you've already had yours yet.
No.
We're doing Easter dinner tonight. I've got a turkey
Oh,
in the oven
fantastic.
right now. Uh,
Awesome.
what does it feel like to become the person you were chasing all along, Gene?
You know, I, I don't want to be egotistic. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I've done a lot in
I would be
business.
too.
I'm sorry.
I would be too. And for you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it was hard work. It wasn't. I wasn't born with the silver spoon, right? And I became who I am through hard work, perseverance. Self-talk. I'll use a quick example. I'm with some family today as well, and and everyone in my family are on some medic or on some sort of a medication. One's got
Fair.
diabetes. I have a sister with MS. I have my sister, other sister has rheumatoid arthritis. My uncle has a heart condition. His girlfriend has heart issue. Like they're, and then my uncle was asking me yesterday, "What do you take?" And I said, I take supplements. I take vitamins. And so from a holistic, from a health point of view, there's not only I accomplish great things. It also helps in my health, and I want we only have one life, longevity and health span.
Absolutely.
I want to have my health span and my lifespan, in equilibrium, and
That term
it
equilibrium, that's how you want life to be, really, I think, is
right,
balanced and equilibrium, and there to be a balance of everything.
right,
The good,
and
the bad, the bien, the
yes.
mal, everything. Yes, absolutely,
Yeah,
James.
yeah, and there's a saying, the harder I work, the luckier I got, or the harder
That's
I work,
right.
the luckier
I
I
like
get,
that one too.
And I mean, I worked hard. I've got, I put myself through school. I paid off my student loans. I'm not the most highly motivated. I had periods of demotivation, lack of motivation, but I did have a vision, and now, be who I am, what I do. I am here to give back. I want to help people. That's why I'm really happy to be on your show, because if I can inspire you to just lace up and just go for a walk today, think of me after you have your big turkey dinner. Go for a walk. Don't go to the couch, right? Oh, Gene's in my head right now.
After
I
that,
better go. He's gonna
that's
kill me
exact.
if
That was the
you
plan. Gene was to eat the turkey dinner and then watch the Blue
watch.
Jays
Yeah.
game and do some dumbbell curls.
There you go. Right, exactly. So,
You got to
and
do
then with
something. But
younger people, yeah.
absolutely, I had a gym teacher that he taught me that when you're watching television and there's a commercial, just roll off the couch and do 50 sit-ups or
Fantastic.
50
Yeah,
push-ups or throw the weights around just for
that's
two
great.
minutes. Yeah.
I never had
Anyway,
that. I
I
wish I
love this
did.
conversation, sir.
Thank
Man,
you.
one step forward, Gene's book, and he's working on another one called, what was that again?
The marathon mindset for leaders.
Marathon mindset. I love that you've documented your life into the platform of running, of marathons. There's a lot of people that do this, Gene, but documenting it and getting it out there to the masses is a wonderful thing. And you've been an amazing guest on this show.
Oh, thank you.
And the one more question I might add: what is your T-shirt size?
Well, I'm hovering between a medium and a large, so maybe a
Okay,
large
let's
right
go.
now.
All right, we'll send you a large
If I'm
snackable
training
T-shirt.
for a marathon,
That's
I
I've
get
got
down to
some
a medium.
swag to send you
Oh, thank
next
you.
week.
You don't have to do that. You're fantastic.
All
Well,
right,
thank
sir.
you.
We will see you. We will connect soon and see you on the flip side. Gene Jochen, everybody. Snackable
Thank you,
mental health.
Brandon. It was a pleasure.
All right, take care.
Take care.